Ign- Story 1. AITA for canceling Mother's Day celebration that I arranged for my wife after hearing what she told my son. I am/37, have a 13-year-old son. I was a widower when I met my now wife. She has a 16-year-old daughter from another relationship. The family is often on pretty good terms. My son is the quiet one in the house, he keeps to himself a lot but not to the point of being concerning. My wife and stepdaughter are the complete opposite. They both encourage him to be outgoing and share activities and join gatherings with extended family. My son complained about having to be forced out of his comfort zone and having his need for space invalidated. I spoke to both my wife and stepdaughter and asked them to give him space and freedom to spend his time however he wanted. They apologized and promised to let him be. As Mother's Day was approaching, I wanted to throw my wife a surprise Mother's Day celebration. It was no longer a surprise because my stepdaughter gave her the heads so she could prepare. Yesterday I got off work earlier than usual to get final arrangements done. We planned to celebrate at the restaurant and invited her family there. I had the key, and while I was entering the house through the front door, I overheard my wife and stepdaughter talking to my son. My wife was asking my son if he could convince me to let him stay home and not go with them to the restaurant to celebrate. I paused and decided to keep listening. My son said why, and she told him that his introverted and socially inept attitude will make her family uncomfortable and will ruin the mood. He promised her that he'd be well behaved and would try to interact and socialize with everyone, but she said that she wasn't buying it. He kept reassuring her, but she snapped and told him that technically, she's not his mom, so she didn't get why he wanted to celebrate Mother's Day with her so badly. My stepdaughter threw some, "I don't remember," backhanded comment, and then both of them were shocked to see me standing there. Both were staring without saying anything. I told my son and his stepsister to go to their rooms, then told my wife that the celebration was off, cancelled. She tried to argue, asking why repeatedly, and I told her why. She tried to explain that she didn't mean it like that and that I only heard part of the conversation but not all of it. I told her I was done arguing and the decision was already made. She yelled, asking what she was going to tell her family, and said that I was making tremendous mistake towards her. I ignored her while she kept throwing tantrum after a tantrum. Early this morning she took my stepdaughter and went to stay with her folks. Not a single call or text from her so far. Situation is full of tension. I'm upset still, but more hurt, to be honest. I mean, yes, I did say I was going to have this celebration, but I thought that what she said to my son was too harsh to ignore. Before we get into the comments, guys, help my channel grow by subscribing, like and share. Let's read some comments. No Royal 6008. NTA. Guarantee they have done this before. Circle the wagons, protect your son. Such disgusting abuse from your wife upon your son. To make it even worse, she is raising her daughter to be cruel and exclusionary. Your son deserves so much better. Shrimp and Shaflippy. Please don't downplay what she did. To rationalize staying with her and make your own life easier, you caught her abusing your son. She has probably been doing this behind your back for some time. Do not kid yourself into thinking he would tell you. If she had been doing this long term, you are all he has in the world, and his stepmother has already indicated that she would remove him from the family if she had her choice, because he's not entertaining enough for her. He is probably terrified you secretly feel the same because you chose this woman to fill the mother role for him. Protect your son. He was there first and needs to be your first priority in every way. That poor child. My heart aches for him.
Story 2. Ex-friend expected everything off of me. Sorry for the bad grammar and spelling, English isn't my first language. About 2 years ago, I was in a friendship group with about 7 girls including me. I used to be a bit of a pushover and let people talk to / treat me like garbage, as I never used to have friends through school and I was afraid of being alone. Out of all of us in this group, me and only 2 others had jobs. I was working a decent paying job at the time and I was pretty generous with money. Considering that I was 19, turning 20 at the time and still living with my parents, I had loads to spare. One friend, who we will call Sandra, took advantage of that. She didn't work, relied on her baby dad's money, she was pregnant, smoked the green all day every day, and overall was just a very crappy person. Now I also smoke the green and I still do, so I'm not hating on that. Now, she always spoke to me like crap. Took her anger out on me and a few other of our friends verbally and essentially was like her little lap dog. She could be kind when she wanted to be, and me, being desperate for friends, clung on to that. Since she was struggling with money and had no family to help out and I had a decent wage each month, she always wanted to borrow money off of me. When Sandra said borrow, it really meant, can I have your money for this, and I'll cry and make you feel bad when you ask for it back. So it got to a point when I just stopped asking for it, since I never really needed it anyways. Sandra couldn't afford a food shop? I got it. She couldn't afford a new fridge when hers broke? I helped her out. When her dog got sick, guess who paid the €500 vet bill? Yeah, you guessed it, me. I helped her out and was there for her when she had pretty much no one but our group without so much as a thank you sometimes. Anyway, it came to a halt when I just had enough. We were all out at a restaurant for another girl in our group's birthday. The bill was placed in front of us. The birthday girl was told by us all that we were covering her half. It was her birthday after all and we wanted to treat her. Everyone excluding Sandra had paid, and when asked about it, she had the audacity to say that because I help her out the most, she assumed I was paying for her food as well as mine. That I know she is struggling, so it would be unfair of me not to pay. Like WTF? I laughed. When I realized Sandra wasn't joking, I was fuming. I'd had enough and told her I'm sick and tired of the sheer audacity, and how dare she think she's this entitled to the money I work for. I stood up from the table, told her that if she wants money to get a bloody job and stop sponging off her friends. I ended the friendship there and then. Before leaving, I told the others they were welcome to stay in a toxic friendship with Satan, but that wasn't me anymore. We argued. I left feeling great and free. Sandra left €53 down and friendless, as I wasn't the only one she wasn't nice to, and after what happened, they decided to jump ship since they couldn't be arsed with her behavior anymore either. 2 years later, we are all happier without her in our lives, and from what I heard she is miserable. LOL karma. That was the comeback I need for the day. Okay, don't forget to like this video.
Story 3. Cousin trying to get me in trouble. My cousin 15M for privacy, I'll call John, and I 14F have never gotten along. I moved to Pennsylvania when I was 12 to be more around family. And ever since my cousin has hated me. Telling me stuff about my body like, your teeth are so yellow, do you ever brush your teeth? And, you already are so much, do you really need more? I am a 6 feet 0 inches and 230 pounds. I am overweight, but I am still active. John always made me feel bad and gave me poor body image. For the past 2 years John has hit me, slapped me, kicked me, called me a whore, etc. The only time I really hit him back was for self-defense, or a joking hit which he always says hurts even if I missed. Lately John hates me because I told someone he is doing something racist and he got scolded a little for it. John has now gone to my grandma lying, saying that I posted something calling him a loser. The only thing I've ever posted about John has a Reddit post and a 10-second video to a funny sound that I showed him before posting. I posted that video on the 27th of January. If he had a problem with it, why didn't he say anything 6 months ago? If he really had a problem with it, he would have said something before I posted it. John doesn't have any problem saying if something is wrong. He always has been loud. So I can tell he's doing this to get me in trouble. My parents and friends agree with this, and are telling me to brush it off. I want to get revenge in some way without going down to his level. What should I do? Sugar_mama76. The next time he puts his hands on you, you call 911 and have him arrested. In most states, it's mandatory there's an arrest when family is involved, since that's immediately domestic violence. And the next time and next time. He'll get to have the fun of mandatory anger management classes, probation officers watching him, and his parents get to pay for it all. If you want to really dig in, next time he insults you, wait for him to finish and then ask, "Do you feel better now?" It's gonna startle him and make him go for another round. Ask the same question. When he asks what you mean, tell him if insulting you makes up for the pain he's hiding from. 'Cause you know he's attacking you to try and make himself feel better from whatever is in his head, telling him that the things he suffered were his own fault. He'll deny it. Just give a sympathetic smile and let him know therapy is a better way to work through the pain he's in. Anytime he goes after you, respond with, "Oh honey, is this really how you want to deal with your trauma?" It's best if this is done in front of family. 'Cause what trauma is asked and you're like, he knows. Say nothing else. The drama that will be unleashed will be glorious to watch. But seriously, a slap, a kick, whatever, nope, he gets put in cuffs and let the juvenile justice system go to work. Sounds like he could use some therapy anyways, and when it's court appointed, no getting out of it. Dorsch 1104. If you can, get some cameras that also have audio and hide them in places where he usually attacks you. Evidence is key, and then show his family and yours. If anyone refuses to stop his behavior, tell them that your next option is to call the police for assault and/or harassment. Story 4. My boss fired me, but ended up getting fired herself instead. I'll try to keep this short. Sorry for any typos, I'm typing this on my phone. This happened about 15 years ago at my first job. I was 16 years old, in high school and working 60+ hours per week at a restaurant. I started out as part-time, but was the only person willing to close the restaurant, so I worked 7 nights a week, 9-ish hours per night while still in high school. The way the management team was made up was 1 general manager and 3 assistant managers. All of the management, and even other staff, like me, and I never had any issues at all. There was 1 assistant manager who had it out for me for some reason. We will call her Carol. One Saturday night, there was a rodeo going on in town, so I knew that we would get a rush around 10 as we were the only place open that late in town. I told management the day before, as it takes many hours for the roast beef to cook and they usually cook them overnight. Carol was supposed to cook extra roast beef, but failed to do so. Saturday night comes and we get a huge rush around 10:30, 30 minutes before closing. There were 3 of us there, the cook, the manager and me. They are both making the food while I'm running the drive-through, front counter, and bagging the food myself. We ended up running out of roast beef. Instead of no longer taking orders, Carol decides she's going to cook the roast beef in the microwave, and she says this loud enough for customers to hear. Now I've got people asking for refunds, and the manager is the only one that can issue refunds. After about the 5th time of me asking her to give someone a refund, she yells at me in front of about 50 customers and tells me that if I can't do my job without her help then I could just leave and not come back. Here's where the petty comes in. The cook and I had a very good friendship. She was a 50-something-year-old woman, and I was a 16-year-old boy, but we got along great. I ended up talking her into quitting, but we still took care of the customers before leaving the manager there by herself to close the store. I called the GM to let her know what happened, and she asked me and the cook to stay and wait for her to get there. When the GM gets there and is asking us about what happened, I looked at her and said, "Why don't you call your son and ask him? He was in the lobby the whole time." Carol's face went white. The GM talks to her son, comes back and sends Carol home and asked me and the cook to stay and close. The next day, I learned that Carol had been fired and had requested that someone bring her personal items to her as she didn't want to come to the store. The cook and I graciously volunteered to take her things to her. She wouldn't even answer her door. We just left her things on her porch and went about our business. I have seen Carol several times since this and she still won't speak to me.
Subscribe for 389 years of luck.